Well, hello there. How are you? Kumusta po kayo? And thanks for tuning in to another edition of Paul de Guzman Presents Art. So I brought you over to the Strathcona area here in Vancouver, which is of course built on the ancestral territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations, to bring you some art here in this region. And this is actually a studio building, and inside the studio building is a gallery called Afternoon Project. You see that little word afternoon over there? And we're gonna go inside and have a look at some work by Doug Wideen, who is a local Vancouver artist. So what are you gonna see inside? Well, he does some paintings, he does some sculptures, he does some drawings, and they're inspired by a lot of really weird shit. Like, for example, he loves reptiles, he likes cars, he likes troll dolls, and also he likes Alfred E Neuman from the Mad Magazine stuff. So it's gonna be a fun show. So I hope you can enjoy and join me in this tour. We're gonna go inside right now, okay? And we'll see you there. Okay, so we're just gonna go inside the gallery right now, and I will have to apologize for something. I'm gonna tell you what it's all about. And just gonna go turn left and have a look. And we're just gonna go inside and have a look and pan the show for a little bit. So I apologize for the little wobble that's gonna happen because my gimbal decided not to fucking work today. So unfortunately, that is one of those things that content creators have to deal with. So I'm gonna try and keep my hand very steady. So this is a fun show. And like I said before my stupid gimbal interrupted me, it's quite rare to actually see fun shows here in Vancouver because Vancouver has a stupid reputation of being a no-fun city. But as you can see, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to give you a little bit of context with regard to Doug Wideen's work and just read a little bit about his bio. I'm going to read a little bit about him according to his bio. Okay, so here we go. Doug Wideen is currently an artist residing in Coquitlam, British Columbia. His character reflects his childhood, life struggles, and his journey to self-discovery as an artist. Just going to focus on this one right now. After high school, he worked in construction for decades. At 40, he decided to pursue art, taking night classes before establishing his self-taught practice in drawing and painting at Dynamo Arts. He continues to work in construction while creating art. So he has a studio in Vancouver. It's called Pig Freeze Studios. And I guess that's where he makes a lot of the work that he does. I first encountered Doug's work, I think about a year ago, because I'm part of this collective that juries art for a local festival called the Eastside Culture Club. And every year we have a call for submissions. And it pretty much sort of like asks artists to sort of like see if they're interested in participating in a group exhibition. So Doug Wideen's work was actually submitted, and I remember, I think it was this piece that he submitted. This guy in the bald guy in the automobile, and he submitted that in another piece. And I thought, wow, this guy's kind of quirky. Because there's a lot of quirkiness about the work, and we're concentrating right now on the automobile works. And like, we're gonna go underneath the table as well. Because there's a melting ice cream cone down there. So there's this kind of like weird sense of the absurd, and I think a lot of the imagery and a lot of the sculptures that he does tend to sort of like deal with images that he gets from like daily sort of like interactions with his job in construction. And then apparently he goes to like the bar and stuff, and then he goes in and he goes and sort of like does some drawings and stuff like that. And sometimes some of the images come up according to his his interests. I was reading his bio on his website. He said he's really interested in reptiles and cars for some reason. And the thing about it too, you can see a lot of cars and a lot of reptiles, like this one is a crocodile. Let's focus on that. It's got like robins. Looks like a Robin Hood sort of like hat there. And there's another one of like Alfred E Neuman. And for those of you who don't know, Alfred E Neuman is the mascot for Mad Magazine. And Mad Magazine was established in 1952 as sort of like a satirical magazine in the United States. I put a little bit of a blurb in the bottom of this screen. So that's one of the characters that he really enjoys sort of like dealing with in terms of his art. And there's crocodiles. You know, like he has a lot of like reptiles and crocodiles here. I kind of wonder whether he actually has a pet iguana or maybe snakes in his he's living with or something like that. Maybe that's what his pets are. The exhibition is pretty much sort of like categorized into 3 levels. Like there are these sculptures that we're looking at. And there are the paintings, which we're going to go and have a look at. But before we do that, we're just going to go in and have a look at this mask, which I thought was really kind of interesting too. This is also another work. It's a mask of Alfred E Neuman. And just a little bit of context. I think Alfred E Neuman was the mascot for Mad Magazine. And I think it was actually originally sort of like found in an advertising for painless dentistry. But moving on to the paintings, which are actually equally quirky, like for example this one. There's like Ronald McDonald, I think, playing a bass that's just going through the side of a bridge. And there's another face over here. See, I kind of like, there's a certain sort of like surrealist aspect to this work that is kind of eerie, but also funny and ridiculous at the same time. And sometimes, as artists do, they tend to sort of like just go and sort of paint something, and then they leave the painting there for a few months to ruminate on, and then they come back and sort of like add on to it a few months later. So a lot of the paintings are kind of like worked on with regard to sort of like just a durational element to it, you know. And I saw that a lot of the works also tend to sort of comment on landscapes, because that kind of tends toward like the West Coast landscape here in Vancouver. We are kind of like spoiled for natural beauty here. You know, we have the sea, we have the mountains, and the mountains get covered in snow during the winter time. So, and if you want to sort of like get away from it all, you can actually go on a ferry and go to the islands and have a look at some sort of like lush beauty in terms of the West Coast rainforests and stuff. So a lot of the work here tend to sort of comment on that because he has access to that. Like for example, this kind of quirky painting over here that has sort of like a West Coast rainforest, and then when you look down in the very bottom, you see this sort of like almost like a hippie-like dude, just sort of like just sitting at the base of the tree. And that's kind of like the vibe here too, because like in the 70s, you know, Vancouver was pretty much like a hippie type of place. A lot of like the draft dodgers would actually go to Vancouver, or to Canada for that matter anyways. And this painting is really kind of quirky. I really like this painting. I don't know, it's got like a pizza slice head on the top there, and it's got these like, I don't know, globular nodes as a body. It's almost like a sort of like a hybrid. Because in plant life, when you actually look at plants like that, whenever they have sort of like globular nodes like that, it's like it's a reaction to some sort of infection. So I'm just wondering whether this is some sort of like plant life that's trying to survive or trying to sort of like fight its way through some form of infection or something like that. And then we go to the wall that is full of his drawings. And I really like this installation of drawings here, especially the way it's been installed. It's almost like it's a salon style sort of like hanging, but it also kind of reminisces about contemporary art styles stemming from, let's say, artists like Raymond Pettibone or even Robert Crumb. These are all sort of like artists who kind of like deal with the comic genre. I mean, the thing about it is that the comic genre was first sort of like exemplified through Roy Lichtenstein, and then it's sort of like propagated from there. But at the same time, there's also this sort of like comic quality, I mean comic as in comics, not comic as in humor, quality to this work that is really enjoyable and it's very approachable. Like for example, this one. I was looking at one piece like this that looks like a troll. And these pieces, I think, this particular piece that we're looking at right now was done in 1976, I think, because there's a 76 in the bottom, right? So I'm assuming that was done in 1976. And so his style gravitated from there. I guess at the time he wasn't really into alligators or cars yet. But there's also this like alligator over here. There's a lot of like really quirky type of almost outsider influenced sort of like imagery, because I was mentioning to the gallerist that this would probably go very well in New York or even in the outsider art world, because technically, if you were to sort of like take away all the night courses and stuff like that and put him aside, he would be considered an outsider artist. Because the entire sort of like images, the entire body of work, you know, he's an artist who doesn't rely on academic thinking. He is an artist who actually makes art because he needs to do it. It is some type of exercising from his sort of like, you know, from his self. It's something that he just needs to do. And he doesn't need a diatribe to sort of like justify to people what he needs to do with his life in terms of drawing, in terms of painting, in terms of sculpture. Does that make sense? I think it makes sense when you're sort of like just not really having any expectations about art. And I think sometimes we lose track of that. We lose track of the fact that art can be something just for your soul. Art can be something just for you to do. It doesn't have to be something that you need to sort of like sustain you financially. And I think that's very important when you look at this type of work. It's that this is actually coming from an impulse to actually create. And I did mention other artists like Raymond Pettibone and Robert Crumb and just entire sort of like sea of influences that he might be aware of, I don't know, but it's just one of those things that's actually part of the canon of contemporary art. And I think this is just one of those incredible moments where, you know, you discover an artist and then you say, wow, where was he showing before, and how come his work was never exhibited before? And before we leave the gallery, I forgot to actually sort of like look at this piece over here, which is also kind of quirky. It's kind of like a wall work, but it's also a sculpture. And I hope this video was not too difficult for you to watch because it was very wobbly because of my stupid gimbal. But regardless, I think I'm going to end on that note. So I hope you enjoyed that tour of Doug Wideen's work here at Afternoon Projects. If you did, you can like this video, you can share it on your social media channels, and also you can consider subscribing to the channel. It's all free for you to enjoy. Well, thank you so much. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. I hope you have a great day, and I hope art informs your life. And I'm going to end on this guy underneath here. Looks like an angry ice cream cone. All right, goodbye. After high school, he worked in construction for decades. At 40, he decided to pursue art, taking night classes before establishing his self-taught practice. Shit. Something happened. Damn it. It's okay.